is a super quick way to understand what's really important from a scope of work perspective. Because it's very easy to get sucked into just doing what you think is needed when it comes to scope. You may have been going through a pitch process and talking about scope and what you're going to achieve, what you're going to do, and then you just follow that lead without really questioning what should we be working on, what is going to provide value. And or maybe you've worked on projects where you've done something similar before, so you're kind of just following the same flow. This is what I know is needed, let's just carry on with it. But a great way to understand what's really needed from a scope perspective is this, the effort versus value scale. And as you can see, what you need to do, and you can do this on a piece of paper, on a whiteboard, mural, Miro, whatever it might be, ideally with your team and your clients together, you lay out your scope of work in this quadrant. And along the bottom here, you've got the value. So low value is on the left here, high value is on the right. And then on the left, you've got effort is low at the bottom and then high at the top. And then what you do is you plot out your scope of work, ideally on things like post-its, like I've got here, because it keeps it at a high level. If you put too much detail up there, you get sucked into that detail too quickly. And what you want to be doing here is having a conversation with a big focus on effort, value, and how is that going to help us achieve the project goal or objectives or vision, whatever it might be. So you plot them on the quadrant, effort versus value, and you want to focus here first, because this is where you're saying, as a team, this is the highest value scope items with the least amount of effort to achieve them. So really, it's a no-brainer. You want to be working on these. And then you want to focus here next, because again, this has got high value, but it might have high effort, but it doesn't matter too much because of the value you're going to get from working on these items. And then you might have these items here, which you go, well, actually the value isn't that high, but the effort's low. So I think we should do these, because it might be something functional that might be in your website or something like that. And because the effort is low, then you feel it's achievable, you can put it in there. But the really interesting part and approach and the reasons why you should do this is this section here. Those scope items that are going to take a lot of work, but don't achieve much. Now, a few reasons why you want to talk about these is one, the end project, the final thing or product you're going to create. If you've got things in there that aren't going to be that helpful for the customers or the client or whoever it might be, the end user, but you've spent a lot of money, a lot of time doing it, then no one's going to feel good about that. Client might have spent more money, you spent more effort. And then also the team who are building it. It's frustrating to work on stuff that isn't very valuable, but it's taking up a lot of your time. So what you can do here, through conversation, if in agreement, we should just take these out. Let's move them to this out of scope section. And it's so much easier to do when you're taking it off paper and you're doing it through conversation. And this out of scope item as well, these items here, then this is super important, because don't make any assumptions that certain things are out of scope. Call it out, because somebody might, even though you haven't put it on the quadrant, they may still think, well, obviously they're going to do that. That's clearly going to be in scope. So don't make that assumption. Clearly write down what's out of scope as well. And then once you've got this, it's a great base to start from to then build out what's really important from a scope perspective. And then you can work on things that really matter, that are going to provide value for your project. And it just reduces the workload for you and your team. And then hopefully you have a project where you can work on good stuff, but it's not high pressure task and you're just trying to squeeze everything in. So it's really helpful when you've got a really tight timeline. So that's the effort versus value scale. Super easy to use, piece of paper, a few post-its on the wall, keep it high level, and it could make a really big impact on your project in terms of your workload and also how happy your team are when working on the project.